And now, you're tuned in to RBLR, the home of Tampa Bay's Reveler Sports.
Happy New Year's, Buccaneers fans. We hope you had an incredible holiday season, and we hope you are ready to kick off 2025 with some fire. Welcome in to the first RBLR Bucks episode of the year, your ultimate podcast for everything Tampa Bay Buccaneers related. I'm your co-host, Musab, and oh boy, just like last week, we got a lot to discuss, but this time, it's all good vibes. All right. Well, the Bucks absolutely annihilated the Panthers last week. Oh my Lord. Talk about domination. But now we're going to be gearing up for the big one, our last game of the regular season against the New Orleans Saints. Last time we faced them, we wiped the floor with them, and we're hoping for the same. But I'll tell you this, anything can happen. You know what I'm saying? So we know the Saints always bring their best, or at least they try to. But no matter how the season's gone, I think this one should be fun. But as we look ahead to that, I want to get the energy up. And before we dive in this episode, I want to remind you guys, we want to hear from you fans. Tell us how you feel. All right? Drop your comments in the live stream. I want to get those hot takes going on. You know the deal. Questions, bold predictions. We're all about it. Now, before I keep hyping up this upcoming matchup, I want to kick it off with the guys who always bring the energy. First up, a man who's always ready to drop knowledge and bring intensity, whether it's stats or game-breaking insights. Give it up for the one and only Mr. Zach Blaine. Zach, what's the good word? And talk to me, man. You know, from that depressing loss from the Cowboys to a I always say sunshine and rainbows. I feel like if there was one game that was sunshine and rainbows this season so far, I think it was this one. But you tell me.
Yeah, no, this is a great game. First off, Happy New Year's, everybody. We haven't been on since New Year's, so Happy New Year's, everyone. This was a good game. It was fun to watch. It would have been nicer had we won the Dallas game because we would have been locked into a playoff spot already. But, it is – well, no, I guess we wouldn't have been locked in because we would have still had to – Atlanta would have had to lose another one, I think. But irrelevant. We're here. We're in we control our own destiny, and that's what's glorious about this win. And
for a moment, the Commanders controlled our destiny for a little bit. So I do want to thank Jaden Daniels and company for taking care of business. Yeah. Yep. And we can't continue this episode without the final puzzle piece of this iconic trio. The guy who brings the deep level analysis, always spitting facts with that unmatched excitement and passion. Let's make some noise for Mr. Carter Brantley. Carter, what's the good word, man?
Oh, nothing much, man. That game, my goodness, what a game it was. We'll get into all of it, and we'll also, like you said, talk about the Saints preview. Yeah, because man, it's a big time game. Like you said, the Bucks hold their destiny in their own hands. Finally, they don't have to rely on the Falcons losing. Although the Falcons losing would be nice, that'd be cool. But just because it's the Falcons, it's always fun to see them lose. But regardless, my goodness, 48-14. Mr. Tariq, you were right on the money, man. You said it was either going to be a really close loss or a big time win, and you called it. It was probably the biggest win of the season in terms of just beating the crap out of the other team. So that was a lot of fun. Baker was perfect. He looked perfect. I can't remember if he maintained that perfect passer rating. I think he did, because he had I think he had 4 incompletions or something and 4 touchdown passes. It was just insane production from Baker Mayfield. Really, really amazing stuff.
He had 5 touchdown passes, didn't he?
Oh,
yeah, he had 5, and I think he had the same amount of incompletions as touchdowns.
Right.
Yeah.
I remember that because they asked him that in the press conference. I just couldn't remember if it was 4 or 5, but regardless, 4, 5, 6, really, really great stuff. He was he was perfect. He was fantastic. Bucky Irving also Ducky Irving, if you want to get into the Duck stuff. He was also amazing. Mike Evans got back on track, and he doesn't really have to have a huge game, but he does have to have a pretty solid game this week to crack that 1,000-yard mark. We'll also talk about that in the second half of the episode. But before we get too much further in about this Panthers game, we just listed off some kind of offensive superstars. Was there any guy that kind of stood out for you offensively, or was it just kind of everyone just balling out? Mr. Tariq, I'll start with you, man. What were your thoughts? Who was the most impressive player on offense for you?
It was so fun watching all of them, but I'm gonna have to lean on, Baker Mayfield on this, just because, I mean, at the end of the day, it was up to him to execute all these things. He was getting the ball around to everyone, first of all, so it wasn't like it was just him and, another guy. It wasn't just the Baker Mike Evans show. I mean, it was the Buccaneers offensive show. You know what I'm saying? So he was getting it all around, as we mentioned already. Yeah, same amount of incompletions as touchdowns. I mean, that is amazing. So to tell you, to be honest, I feel like, once Baker Mayfield gets very comfortable, I feel like it's game over for all of our opponents. So, yeah, I'm gonna have to give it a Baker Mayfield. Bucky's a close second, but yeah.
Yeah, I'm with you. Baker was the player of the game. He was the best player on the field. Also want to give a shout out Jalen McMillan. He had a couple of touchdowns as well. He was outstanding. He has taken a huge leap in the second half of the season, especially with Godwin going down. McMillan has just been really, really impressive, and obviously that goes hand in hand with Baker just playing really, really well. Because it doesn't matter how open you get if no one's throwing you the ball on time and on target. So, but yeah, it was just really a fantastic effort. Even Payne Durham got in a little touchdown on the nice little seam route down the middle. Baker hit him right on time and right on target. So it was fantastic to watch for sure. He really spread the love very well. But Mr. Blaine, I know you're probably going to say Baker, but maybe you're wrong. Maybe I'm wrong. Maybe you give it to Bucky. I don't know. Who is the most impressive offensive player?
I'm going with Baker, but you guys are all spot on. I mean, you can't throw 5 touchdowns and 5 incompletions and not get player of the game, if that makes sense to me.
Right. No, for sure.
So I'm giving it to Baker, but Bucky very close second. McMillan 4 straight games with touchdowns, if I'm not mistaken.
Yeah.
And someone who came up clutch on one drive, and I wish we would have seen more, was Devin Culp, man. Like,
I loved watching Devin Culp.
He had his first 3
catches,
first 3 catches in his career in that game, and I think he's going to be someone that we can watch develop, almost like a K. Dotton type development. Like, he's going to be on our team for 3 or 4 years before we know who he is, like, doing anything, and it's going to be exciting to see. I'm cautiously optimistic about the outlook of this team.
Yeah, no, absolutely. I mean, in regards of just like really big picture, like moving forward, this team is super exciting because one of the youngest teams in football. So in that regard, absolutely. But even just this season, if you want to just stick to this season, absolutely, they're really looking good. But sorry about that. Got a kitty that's just going absolutely nuts. But yeah, Devin Culp. I love Devin Culp so much. He's Baker put it really well in the press conference that when they asked him about him. He's the most athletic of their tight ends. He's just really, really gifted athletically. Not necessarily as big as K. Dotton. He might not be as much of a blocker,
he's a vertical threat for sure. What do you run, like a 4 something 40?
Yeah, exactly. I mean, he's really, really fast. Got some decent size. So yeah, I'm really excited to see his future with the Bucs as they kind of move forward. Jason Light just hitting on a kind of a fun project player for sure. So that's exciting. Some exciting stuff. Absolutely. But focusing on Bucky because, like you said, Baker was probably the best, but Bucky was a really darn close second. Based on this season's production, I mean, Bucky's playing really, really stinking well. And I just wanted to ask y'all because it was kind of going through my head as I was watching him pick apart this Panthers defense, which, it was a really impressive performance. Is he a top 5 running back in the NFL right now? I mean, obviously the big 3 is kind of, Henry, Barkley, and Christian McCaffrey. But after that, it gets kind of interesting. And Bucky's been really stinking good in a smaller time frame, So Zach, you're kind of our resident running back fan. So I'll throw this question to you first. What are your thoughts on Bucky Irving, top 5 running back?
I really like him, and he was my boomer bust when we drafted him. I was talking about it. I hate that he played for Oregon, so I don't know if I can put him top 5 though.
That's fair. Oregon, he's a rookie.
I mean, you got Barkley, like you named the big 3. Then you got Jahmyr Gibbs. You've got Bijan Robinson.
Yeah, absolutely.
I'll even say David Montgomery if he's healthy. Like there's a lot of good running backs in the league right now. I need to see another season of this production, and then I'll be willing to put him higher up. I'm putting him top 10 for sure.
Yeah,
but top 5, I think it's a little too early for top 5.
That's a totally fair assessment. I feel you. Gibbs and Montgomery are so tough because, individually, I don't know. They might be better than Bucky Irving. They might not, but it doesn't matter because they're on the same team.
Exactly.
Right. So, you can hypothetical yourself to death, but yeah, it's a tough call for sure. Absolutely. And it is absolutely bonkers that the Lions have two of arguably the best running backs in the NFL.
Yeah,
But
and that they make it work. Like neither one of them are too arrogant or cocky to be like, I need to be number one. They got
right.
that Sonic and Knuckles nickname. Like those two are some of my favorite players in football. I'm not a huge Lions fan, but those two are some of my favorite players in all of football.
Yeah, they're both just excellent at what they do, and they do it in a different, very different ways. So they're really fun to watch. But Musab, maybe you're on the Bucky train, fully just invested. Maybe you say, "Hey, screw that, Gibbs and Montgomery. What the heck? They're on the same team. You can't have both of them up there." What are your thoughts on Bucky Irving being a top 5 running back?
I'll tell you this, when it comes to the running back game, I mean, there's only been a couple guys who really caught my eye, other than Bucky, of course. But I mean, I got to put Bucky in the top 10. I feel like top 5 as of right now, it's, as Zach said, a little bit of a reach.
Sure.
But he's been phenomenal. I mean, I was not happy when we got him because I was a little thrown off. Didn't really see much tape, on him. But I'm not gonna lie to you, I'm becoming a huge Bucky fan. I feel like that whole Kyle Trask hype I ever had. I feel like I feel like I should have just saved all that energy and just put it into Bucky, because let me tell you something. And I didn't realize it, but I want to give a shout out to Underdog NFL on X, who informed me about these beautiful, beautiful stats. Bucky Irving, among all rookies this season, is first in scrimmage yards, first in rushing yards, and first in rushing touchdowns. So it doesn't get better than this, folks.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, he's by far and away the best rookie running back in this class. Like, it's not even really a competition, if we're being completely honest. But yeah, if it wasn't for freaking Jaden Daniels and oh my goodness, and Brock Bowers, he might be an offensive rookie of the year candidate. But instead, there's some outstanding rookies who are having great years. So deservedly so. That award will go to either one of those guys. But yeah, man, Bucky, he's just been outstanding, and top 10, definitely. Top 5, y'all might be right. It's a bit of a reach. We need to see a whole season of this from Bucky Irving, maybe one more. But before we move on, because I want to talk about the Falcons game, because that was something else. It wasn't necessarily pretty, but certainly worked out for the Bucs.
Pretty for us, yeah.
Right, absolutely, very pretty for the Bucs. But I wanted to give a shout out to the defense. I know it's against the Panthers, so kind of take it with a grain of salt. But they, after that performance against the Cowboys, you couldn't really put it past them to struggle against this Panthers team. But they were great. They got after Bryce Young. He was pressured on 68.6% of his snaps. He ended up with a couple hundred yards and a couple of touchdowns, no picks or anything. But those were the only points of the game. It was a 14-point performance for this defense, and they forced 4 3-and-outs. That was the most impressive thing for me. They got off the field really quickly, forced that Panthers defense to be out there a long time. And with Bucky Irving running all over you, like, you have to kind of keep up with that. That contributed to the Bucs offense being so hot. They were so good because they were on the field a lot. Like, it was just really outstanding complementary football. Just really couldn't have played a better game on either side of the ball. But with as positive as the Bucs were, as great as they were, my goodness, the Falcons, they had a chance to really make some noise. They had a chance to really make things interesting. They lost an OT to the Washington Commanders, 30-24, I believe the final score was. And the big discussion was they missed a field goal at the end of regulation to potentially win the game. Young Hoku was not healthy, so it was not him missing it. But man, they had a chance. They had 2 timeouts left. It was one of those weird clock management blunders by Raheem Morris. And in my opinion, that was the worst clock management error of the season. I know that the Bears-Lions game was huge. I know that was a really bad error. And in terms of level of, the level of poor play, it might have been even, but this was a playoff content. This was essentially a playoff game for the Falcons. So in my opinion, the Raheem Morris gaffe right here was way worse, but I want to hear y'all's take. Well, compared to the Matt Eberflus letting the clock run out fiasco in that Lions game, Mr. Treek, I'll start with you, man. What are your thoughts? What was worse, Raheem Morris or the Bears-Lions fiasco?
I think the whole Bears-Lions fiasco, that was honestly extremely depressing, just all around. I mean, not even just that, running out the clock. I mean, I've never. I don't call myself a Caleb Williams hater, but I like to, be hard on him because of all the hype and all that. And I still remember the quote. I think he said, he's like, "Oh, I'm gonna tell my punter, he doesn't have to worry about punting ever again or something." And I think
Yeah.
like that's all they did that game. So
Right.
that was overall all ugly. I didn't get to tune in too much in the whole Commanders Falcons game, but I mean that was also just very messy. We got real lucky with that bad field goal, because otherwise we'd be a lot more sad or we'd be just sad. I mean, we're not sad right now, but yeah, both of them were just really weird, but it happens.
Yeah, I mean it's tough. I mean, both Eberflus got fired because of it. I mean, not because of that isolated incident, but that was sort of the straw that broke the camel's back, so to speak. There was obviously a lot of stuff building up to that. But yeah, I'm with you. The Bears one, because at least the Falcons, they still got a field goal off, but man, they had 2 timeouts and they let 17 seconds just drain. They just let that go to waste, and they pocketed one of their timeouts, and the only other timeout that they used was just to draw the Commanders off sides, and they didn't. And it was just, man, it was just a really, really poorly executed sequence for both the offense, because they took a long time to get down the field, but also, for Matt Eberflus too, like, call the timeout. You're the coach. Like, you're the one that's going to make this decision. Like, the buck stops with you, man. Like, I get that it's a quarterback. Like, the offense needs to speed up, but you're also sitting there watching it all happen. Like, I don't know. You gotta
Did he ever justify as to why he did all that?
I think Eberflus kind of, I'll give Raheem Morris credit. In the press conference, he was at least sort of, yeah, we could have used a timeout there. He at least sort of fessed up to it. But yeah, Eberflus stuck to his guns. It was weird.
Yeah.
Eberflus came out and was like, it wouldn't have changed anything.
Yeah, it was really,
for lack of a better term, douchey response.
Yeah, right.
I mean, like a total a-hole. It's essentially what it felt like what I remember it happening.
Absolutely. And given like he was out the door anyways, I'm sure he could see the writing on the wall. So maybe in his mind he was just like, hey, I'm just going to go out and just, I'll just stick to my guns. I don't know. It was a weird situation all the way around. And unfortunately for the Falcons, this probably cost them a playoff appearance. And yeah, it's definitely really, really tough. But if you're looking for the anti-Raheem Morris clock management for your wardrobe, if you're looking for the Baker Mayfield of your wardrobe, if you're looking to upgrade for 2025, new year, new you type thing, new year, new wardrobe, definitely head to shop.rblrsports.com. We'll give you a promo code. That's Cannon, CANNONS. You can type it in, get 10% off your entire order. We've got it all. We've got you covered for anything Tampa Bay sports related. So we're moving on to the second half of our episode, and we got to talk about the Saints, because that's the final opponent. That's the final countdown, whatever awful Journey song you want to talk about. Or is that Journey? I don't even know. But yeah, I don't know.
I think before we get into the Saints game, we should take the question from Mr. Matthew Gannon.
Absolutely. Thank you, Mr. Gannon. We appreciate this, because this is a great question. I mean, where does Bucky get drafted in a 10-man fantasy league next year? Wow, I don't know. I got to be honest. I think he's a first rounder. He might be a round one running back. I don't know if that's solidified. He might slip to the second or third round, but man, you get a 1,000-yard rusher from a guy that didn't even start all year. Like, this is kind of a sneaky, like, hey, maybe especially with Christian McCaffrey. Like, who knows what he's going to do after his injury. Obviously, Henry and Barkley are the first two running backs off the board. But yeah, Bucky's up there in terms of fantasy production, because Gibbs and Montgomery share the load so much that, it's kind of hard to pick either one of them super high. So I feel like in terms of fantasy, Bucky might creep in fantasy. Bucky's top 5. In fantasy, he's top 5 in my opinion at the running back.
You think so? See, I disagree.
Really interesting. Okay, go ahead.
So Gibbs shares a room with Montgomery, but he also still has 13 touchdowns and
absolutely
173 yards.
That's a great point. Yeah,
he is running back. You got to remember, Bucky still technically shares the backfield with Rachaad White.
I feel you.
Kind of.
Right.
I think he's taken over sole possession of RB1.
For sure.
I guess it depends on how competitive your league is. Because if you're playing in a competitive 10-man league, I think round 3 or 4. I don't think that running back is a hard one to take unless you're getting CMC, Barkley, Henry, like those are your big three that you know are going to go round one.
Right.
I think you could be justified in taking Irving in round 3 or 2 or 3, but realistically, I think you'd be safer to wait round 3 or 4, and you'd be better off.
I think you've convinced me. Maybe he is more of a round 2, 3 kind of guy,
Yeah.
especially in a 10-man league. If you get into the bigger leagues, like if you get 12, 16, then
Take
you're
him, yeah. If you're getting a big league, take him 1 or 2. But if you're in a 10-man league where there's a lot of players, there's a lot of really good players. Round 2, round 3. I think 3, 4 is my answer in the 10-man.
Gotcha. 10-man. That's a fair point. But Mr. Treek, how about you, man? You were in our RBLR fantasy football league.
Yeah. I'm in your RBLR league, and I'm pretty sure I'm in the toilet bowl is what they call it.
I know I'm in the losers bracket for sure.
Once I got eliminated, I stopped paying attention.
So
league, I'm not gonna lie.
I'm in the toilet bowl right now. So I mean, I'm no fantasy expert, but no, I'd have to agree. Yeah, what Zach said. I mean, if you're in a competitive league, I don't think this is someone you would want to get in round 1 or round 2 or something. But I'll tell you this: I got my eyes on him next year for one of my more of those kind of fun leagues. Because you know what I mean. Sometimes you just got to kind of reach for it. I feel like every NFL fan likes to get at least one guy from their team or something.
Yeah,
and
absolutely.
I gotta put it out there. All right. The RBLR league. I was in 3 leagues this year. The RBLR league is the only league I didn't have Bucky Irving in, and I won the other 2. So he might be a good luck charm. That's all I'm saying, because I'm the champion in 2 other leagues, and I finished almost dead last in the RBLR league this year. So
yeah, I think I'm going to end up in 6th place myself. So yeah, it was a rough year for all 3 of us in this fantasy.
You're asking the wrong guys, Matt.
Matt, maybe do not take this as sound financial advice or whatever those stupid Instagram reels say. This is maybe not the group to go to. Oh man. But yeah, I mean, like Musab said, Bucky's a great guy if you want to draft a Bucks player, because he's kind of fun and he's actually trending upwards. So yeah, I'm with you. I think if you're looking for a Bucks player to draft, he might be the guy to go to. But for fantasy, he was voted, I don't remember what fantasy football news outlet it was, but he was voted as the best waiver wire pickup, because he was a waiver wire guy for a good portion of the first half of the year. So if you picked him up early, then good for you. Like Zach said, if you have him on your team, you might have won your league. Like it's kind of one of those things. Like he was that impactful. He was that good. But moving on from the fun fantasy talk, because hey, there's a game this weekend and it's kind of important. Basically, if the Bucks win, doesn't matter what the Falcons do. But if the Bucks were to somehow lose, not somehow, they could pretty easily lose this game, because any given Sunday, then the Falcons would have to lose to the Panthers in order for the Bucks to secure the division. If the Bucks win and the Rams lose, which they are supposedly benching all their starters, Jimmy Garoppolo is starting. If that happens, then the Bucks secure the 3 seed. If the Bucks win and the Rams win, then the Bucks are the 4 seed, and they take on the loser of the Lions-Vikings game. But if they're the 3 seed, I believe they take on the Commanders, if my memory serves. So that's sort of the playoff layout, if you will. Those are the various scenarios that can take place this weekend. And of course, if the Bucks lose and the Falcons win, then we're not going to have very much fun next week. That's all I'll say. But some good news today at practice: Antoine Winfield Jr., Cade Otton, they both practiced. Does that mean that they're both playing this Sunday? Who knows? There's still Friday, Saturday, obviously, so we'll see. But that's some good news, some sort of a light at the end of the tunnel, so to speak, because both of those guys have dealt with some injuries over the past few weeks. Antoine Winfield Jr. especially. So any thoughts on Cade Otton and Antoine Winfield Jr. practicing, or does that give you some hope? Maybe you hold back on Cade Otton, because this offense has looked really good without him. Mr. Blaine, what are your thoughts on Cade Otton playing this week? Maybe you give him a snap count.
I'm sitting Otton this week.
Interesting.
Yeah,
okay.
The offense has been playing so good, and sure. I mean, you nailed it right on the head. Like, everyone's starting to kind of get a flow. I don't think Otton ruins that flow by any means.
No, not at all.
But I think that with everyone kind of stepping up and producing, it gives you a better shot to have a healthier Otton. come playoffs, because I mean, if we win, it looks like we're playing Washington.
Mm-hmm.
So I'd rather have a healthy Otten for Washington because he is so important to this team. Winfield, I don't know how much. Yeah, I hate to say it. He's a stud. Like I love Winfield Jr., but he's not having a great year. So
yeah,
I don't know how much he improves this defense at this point. Like
I
he's
feel you. No, I feel
the best safety, one of the best safeties in the NFL. I'm not taking that away from him. But I don't know how much he improves us in one game against the Saints. Like I'm okay sitting both of them and still feel relatively confident about our chances.
Wow, Zach Blaine preaching caution. I like it.
It's
I don't
so weird. It's so weird for me. It hurts my heart a little bit to do that.
I feel you. I feel you. But like you said, they're both dealing with injuries. But at the same time, you don't necessarily want to not take the Saints seriously. This is still a winnable game for the Saints because it's the NFL. So you also don't necessarily want to just play for the playoffs because that spot is not secured. This isn't a situation where the Bucs are just playing for seeding or something. They're genuinely playing for a chance to continue playing. So I do feel you though. I wouldn't necessarily be opposed to both of them or either one of them getting just, hey, you're still hurt. Let's take a week, because even if they try to play, they're still a little banged up. So who knows how effective they will truly be. But Mr. Treek, how about you, man? What are your thoughts on both of them practicing? And are you with Zach Blaine? Do you preach caution, or are you a bit more aggressive? Like, hey, man, playoffs are on the line. Both of these guys got to play.
No, I preach a lot of caution. With all due respect, K. Dotton is he's not a game changer. I mean, phenomenal, love the guy and all that. But I'll tell you this, I'm actually kind of wanting to see a little bit more of Devin Cope and Payne Durham. You know what I'm saying? So I am totally fine with just saying, hey, Cade, rest it up, no need for you. And then the thing with Antoine Winfield is, as Zach said, this is not the Antoine Winfield we know in the past. So this is a very bad analogy, but the way I kind of see both of these guys are, more like Antoine Winfield is, just because you have a flashlight doesn't mean you need to use it in the dark. Because I mean, there's as time goes on, when you first turn your lights off, you just see pitch black, but as like time goes on, you can start seeing things a little bit better.
Yeah,
that's how I kind of feel about Antoine Winfield. You can be fine you can be fine this weekend without him. You know what I'm saying? Walk around a little bit in the dark, fight your battles or something, and then save that flashlight for the playoffs.
Fair enough. Yeah, I kind of like that analogy. Maybe you're in your sight's kind of adjusted to the dark, and like there's a little bit of light because you're playing the Saints. But
I mean, that DB room is dark,
right? Yeah, that DB room
I need the flashlight now that you bring it up.
Yeah, I do feel you. So yeah, it'll be interesting to see how they play it, and obviously, it's up to the trainers. It's up to how they feel, because either one of them could very easily say, "Hey, I'm still not good," which I know that people want to try to, you got to push through injuries and be tough and all that stuff. But at the same time, like, you might be costing your team by trying to fight through that stuff. You might be, playing banged up. You might be worse than a guy that plays healthy. Like, for example, Payne Durham or Devin Culp, like either one of those guys might be better than Cade Otton is banged up. So, that's certainly an interesting perspective to take for sure. But, they're playing the Saints. So, theoretically, it shouldn't matter that much. Theoretically, the Bucs should still win this game relatively handily, but of course, we saw with the Cowboys that is certainly not always a given. But the Saints are pretty bad defensively and offensively. They've got the 6th lowest EPA per pass allowed. Some of this has been with Marshawn Lattimore at the beginning of the year, but so maybe a bit inflated, but not by that much. So you kind of still take it as is. And they also have the 3rd highest EPA per rush allowed. So they were pretty decent against the pass. They're not bad, but man, they allow a lot of running lanes. They are not very good at plugging up holes. Bucky Irving should have a great game. They're 11th lowest success rate allowed. So that's pretty decent, but offensively is where they really, really struggle. They don't have Derek Carr. He's not under center. It's more than likely going to be Spencer Rattler. They also don't have Chris Olave or Raheem Shaheed. So they're 23rd in EPA per pass. Spencer Rattler, the worst quarterback in football in EPA per play versus zone. Oh man, it's brutal. So that should be something that plays into the Bucs' favor because they play a lot of zone. They're also ninth in EPA per rush, so that's kind of nice. They've been able to run the ball pretty well, but at the same time, you can't really factor that in too much because that's been partially with Derek Carr under center. So teams have had to factor in the pass. Right now, they don't necessarily have to. They're also one of the worst teams in football in terms of pass blocking. Their receivers are really bad. So offensively, the Saints are a huge weakness, and defensively, they can play the pass relatively well, but they get torn apart at the run. So that's just kind of a little Saints breakdown. But going back, shifting our focus back to the Bucs, because the Saints, we could talk about them as much as we want to, and we'll get into some favorable matchups. But there are some kind of big storylines with the Bucs, specifically with Todd Bowles. I know that a lot of things have gone wrong this season. It's been poor. It's been not really going super well defensively, which is obviously his strong suit. But I wanted to get y'all's thoughts on his job security. If they pull this out, do you think that Todd Bowles' job is safe? Mr. Blaine, we'll start with you, my man.
I don't know. He makes me so angry.
Oh goodness!
In my brain, I'm like, if we make the playoffs, unless we get a deep playoff run, he's done.
Wow.
Because his strong suit is defense, and our defense is trash. But who are we going to have replace him? I don't know that Cohen is ready to be a head coach. I don't think he is. I think we'd have more growing pains next year if we fired Bowles and promoted Cohen.
Mm-hmm.
But if we fire Bowles and don't promote Cohen,
he might be gone.
So it's this weird situation where, like, I am so over Bowles and his lack of changing, because we don't have the players to run the defense that he likes to run, but we're still trying it. And it just seems to be like he's too stubborn. And when you go play basketball at the parks, you call them the old heads. Like, they still back you down every play. Like, it's like he's like one of the old heads of coaching where he's not going to change. We know what he is. And if we weren't in the NFC South, we wouldn't be talking about him making the playoffs as much as he has. So it's a weird situation, because when you look at the accolades, you don't fire a coach that's doing that. And I get that, and I understand that. But when you take a deeper dive at the effectiveness of the defense and the fact that we're declining and not improving, in my opinion, he's not doing what we need him to do.
Interesting. Yeah, I mean, it's tough. Yeah, it's a delicate subject, because I know that, like you said, the defense has taken a huge step back this year. And, that's his thing. He's the defensive-minded head coach. They don't have him there because he's calling plays offensively or anything. So
Exactly.
I feel you. From that perspective, I definitely get it. But like you said, if you're going to fire a guy after making the playoffs every year, winning the division the past 3 years that he's been the head coach, what kind of message does that send? I don't know. I get that, they're in the NFC South and it's a horrible division and they should win every year with the roster that they have. But, a worse coach could come in here and screw it up even more. A worse coach could step in and make this team play even worse. Maybe a new coach comes in or Liam Cohen comes in and hires an even worse defensive coordinator. Or, I don't know. It's a tough thing, because the players really do seem to love him. The players seem to rally around him. I know that that's an immeasurable thing, and compared to the defensive regression, I don't know how important that is, but he does seem to have the respect of the locker room. So I don't know. It's a really tough situation. It's a question that we'll talk about for the rest of the offseason, I'm sure. But Mr. Treek, how about you, man? Maybe you disagree with Mr. Blaine. Maybe in your mind, Bowles' job is safe. He's making the playoffs. Like, that's huge. What's your thoughts on Bowles' job security?
Yeah, I mean, if the Bucs can clinch the division, I mean, I think it's safe. I mean, Carter, you took the words out of my mouth. I mean, how can you get rid of a guy who's won back to back titles as the head coach, and yeah, it is a very crappy division, but I mean, it's we didn't put ourselves there. That's just how how it was made. You know what I'm saying? So
yeah,
I'm just thinking. I mean, yeah. great question, as you mentioned. If we get rid of someone like him, after winning, all these division titles, then yeah, what kind of message does that give? So, and again, yeah, I mean, he's been with our organization for many years, and on top of that, I mean, from the top of my head, I can't think of anyone, who could, just take over the job and we start, kind of hitting the floor and doing well again or whatever. Yes, it's painful to see how our defense has been doing, but I just feel like at the end of the day, we get the job done. I feel like, especially after the bye weeks, these last couple seasons, I feel like, our Buccaneers always kind of turn things around for the better. So if anything, I'm just, praying to God that, the front office, the coaches, the scouting team, everyone like that, we were able to draft some guys this upcoming draft on the defensive side, especially a cornerback. Because dear God, we need someone like that for sure. And I can't imagine what our team would be like if we had someone like Quinion Mitchell or something.
Yeah, it's tough.
Yeah.
I mean, looking back at this past year's draft, it was a bit strange that they didn't draft a cornerback at any point because, it's a bit weird. But at the same time, like I don't know if I'd change any of their picks really. I mean, maybe Chris Braswell. That's a pick that you maybe change in hindsight. But
But
at
the
the
other
same
ones, yeah,
time,
the other ones worked really well.
yeah, I mean, Tyke Smith has been pretty good, and they need safety help. I mean, good gracious, as injured
Mhm.
and as bad as the cornerback room has been, the safeties have been just as bad. So Tyke Smith has played an important role. Obviously, Bucky and Graham Barton, they kind of go hand in hand. I don't know that either one is as good or as having as good of a season without the other. Those are really important picks. Jalen McMillan has turned it around.
Mhm.
So yeah, it's tough. I don't know that trading up to draft Quinion Mitchell would have been the right move because then it kind of pushes center back, and then I don't think
Oh
they
no,
get.
of course. I'm just saying, we got to look for
Oh
that
no, I
next
get you though.
year.
I get you
Oh yeah.
absolutely, absolutely. No,
Oh
I'm
yeah.
my apologies. I didn't mean to insinuate that's what you were
Hell, give
saying.
me
But,
Nate Wiggins. You know what I'm saying?
yeah, no, right. Yeah, it's tough. I'm sure that Jason Light is taking a look at this roster and you'll have to evaluate because it's going to be tough. Levante David's leaving. The linebacker room has been awful this year, and he's
Yeah.
probably retiring. I don't know. I don't want to speak for Mr. David, but they've got some holes to fill throughout the roster, not just at the cornerback position. So they're going to have to be some difficult decisions to be made. Absolutely, not easy ones. Absolutely. So we'll see. Because like you said, Bulls with the defense, it's taken a huge step back, but the talent, the level of play also hasn't quite been there. They've also had some rough players out there. They haven't been necessarily playing the best. But at the same time, maybe that's a scheme thing. Maybe Bulls isn't putting them in a position to succeed. Who knows? But focusing more on this game, what has to happen in your mind for the Bucks to lose this game? Like, what nuclear meltdown has to take place for the Bucks to lose, Mr. Tariq? What goes through your mind if you're looking at this game and you're thinking, oh, what has to happen for the Saints to win this game and for the Bucks to blow it?
I feel like, kind of like similar to the Cowboys game, just in a very ugly start. I feel like once we get an ugly start going on, I feel like it doesn't really work out for us at all. I mean, we know what our Buccaneers are capable of doing, so I feel like if it's just not clicking, I feel like things just slowly and slowly go downhill. It's like you said a couple weeks ago, it's like a snowflake, or maybe it was Zach. It's like a snowflake turning into an avalanche. You know what I'm saying? And that's exactly what happens with our Buccaneers. We have all the weapons. We know what we need to do. I feel like if anything, the only thing is our defense just starts, screwing up. The pass rush is totally invisible. Our linebackers are, completely shit in the bed. Mistiming things, and then on top of that, our DBs are just getting cooked out there and not making tackles or missing tackles. So, really, I feel like it's just going to be more on the defense. I'm not worried about the offense at all.
Yeah, I'm with you. I think if Baker can maybe limit the turnovers a little bit, if he can throw maybe one interception as opposed to two or three, that obviously be huge. And he's done a great job of that. Over the past couple of weeks, he's been really really great about that. So, if he can keep that up, if the Bucks play clean football, I think you said this, Mr. Tariq, recently. Like the only team that's going to beat the Bucks over these last few weeks is the Bucks. They can only beat themselves. So yeah, I'm with you. I think that the defense, obviously, they're playing with Spencer Rattler and the Saints receiving core. They have a bit of a leg up, but at the same time, we've seen them play pretty poorly against some pretty bad teams. So we'll see. But Mr. Blaine, how about you, man? You're kind of usually the pessimist among the group, but what has to go wrong for this Bucks team to take a loss this week?
I don't necessarily think that anything's going to go wrong. We can't give up any big quarters. I mean, all 27 of their points the first time we played came in the second quarter. Baker threw, I believe, all 3 interceptions in the second quarter.
Yeah, it was an ugly quarter.
Yeah. So, I mean, I think we just got to play a clean game. I think you said it best. If we play a clean game, I don't think the Saints are going to beat us. I don't know if any team can beat us if we play a clean game. So I think that's the main thing is Baker needs to limit the turnovers. Sean Tucker needs to have another 130-yard game. No, I just think we have to play a clean game. If we play a clean game, we've got this in the bag. If we have a bad quarter, that's when I'm going to get a little bit worried.
Yeah, and the good news was, they played Spencer Rattler and the Saints that week. So there's a little bit of familiarity there.
243 yards, 1 touchdown, 2 INTs. So
right, he didn't
it
play.
Wasn't a great game, but it wasn't the worst game.
Yeah, I mean, for a rookie quarterback under his circumstances, he could have been a lot worse.
Yeah.
So yeah, it's kind of interesting. They're playing in front of their home crowd, so that's good for the Bucks, obviously.
After a terrible, terrible thing that went down too. So it's it's something that. There's going to be a lot of emotions in that game too, and I think it's going to be a crazy game.
Yeah, I mean, thankfully, I don't know. That's such a horrible situation. Yeah, I'm not even sure what to say about it. There's a lot going on down there, and obviously that's just so much bigger than football.
As much as we want to beat the Saints, our prayers and thoughts are with all of you guys in New Orleans for sure.
For sure, yeah. The city of New Orleans, my goodness, they're going through a tough time right now, and it's tough to see for sure. But maybe this can be kind of a nice reprieve. This game, it's taking place at Ray J, so it's not at the Superdome, but at least they can turn on the TV and watch their team go out there and play some football. So hopefully that's kind of a nice distraction, because my goodness, it's been a rough week for sure. But going more towards the little lighthearted phase, shifting our focus back to the Bucks. They got some interesting matchups coming up this weekend, or not this weekend, but the following weekend. If they make the playoffs, which of the 3 wildcard teams would you rather face? The Vikings, the Lions, the Commanders, or the Packers? What are y'all's thoughts on that? Zach, I'll start with you, man. Of those 4 teams, who would you rather face if you're the Bucks?
Ooh, it's between the Packers and the Commanders. I don't want to play Minnesota. I don't want to play.
Yeah, I'm with you.
We beat the Lions already, and I don't think that happens again.
No, I don't think so.
Yeah. I'm hoping someone else can take them out and give us a cleaner run to a deeper playoff run. Washington has not looked as scary the last few weeks as they did the first few weeks of the season.
Right.
So I think Washington, but Washington and Green Bay, I'm cool with playing either one of them.
Yeah, I mean, there's the joke about the Cliff Kingsbury cliff, like the cliff, if you will. Because his offenses start red hot and then they fall off a cliff. So there hasn't been quite that, but there certainly has been a bit of regression. There certainly has been a bit of falling back to where people kind of expected the Commanders to be. But Dan Quinn seems to be doing a great job there with a defense that lost a lot of players this past year. They lost Chase Young, they lost Montez Sweat. And they got some picks out of it, but they're a little low on talent. So I'm with you. I think Washington is probably the ideal team to play, just because of all the things that I just mentioned. And Green Bay is kind of scary for me. I think Jordan Love, he seems to play better in the cold weather. He seems to play better as the year goes on. So I'd rather the Bucks play the Commanders. Obviously, if they make it to the playoffs, you can't really pick who you play unless, of course, they win and the Rams lose. That'd be kind of nice. But Mr. Treek, how about you, man? Which of those 4 teams would you rather the Bucks face?
Yeah, I gotta go. I gotta go Commanders, and then I'll probably just go Packers. I mean, yeah, I don't see us, really having a very good chance against the Lions. I
Yeah,
feel
me
like
too.
that game. Yeah, I mean, you look at the stat sheet and you wonder, how did we win that game against the
Right.
Lions?
Yeah.
And then on top of the Vikings, I mean, Vikings are just looking scary and scarier by the week.
Mhm.
I mean, I'm honestly shocked with the way everything, kind of worked out with everything with Darnold and all that. I mean, it makes me happy for them, but as a Buccaneers fan, of course, it's definitely scary if we're gonna have to face them. So give me the Commanders, please, and thank you.
Yeah, absolutely. I'm with you. Oh, man. Right. Yeah, I mean, the Vikings, not only is it Darnold and Justin Jefferson and, TJ Hawkinson, that defense is
Jordan
ferocious.
Addison.
Mhm.
Oh, they have so many weapons.
Yeah, and then Brian Flores just has been just a maniacal madman out there on the defensive side of the ball. He's having those guys just playing just ruthless football. They are just really, really weird in a really good way on the defensive side of the ball. So, yeah, I think the Lions are obviously the best team out of those four teams, but I wouldn't want to play the Vikings either if I were the Bucks. So that's going to be tough. But hopefully the Bucks win and the Rams lose. That'd be great. And then the Bucks get to play the Commanders, and hopefully they win their wild card game. That'd be wonderful. But before they get to that point, they got to play the Saints, and there's some matchups that we, like I just mentioned, or not just mentioned, but mentioned a little bit ago. The Saints have a lot of holes. They have a lot of weaknesses that the Bucks can exploit. So there are some favorable matchups for the Bucks coming into this weekend's game. Mr. Tariq, who are some matchups that come to your mind when you think of this game?
My big one is, I just want to see Bucky keep on doing his thing. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah,
I
absolutely.
feel like the run game, where their run defense is really no threat against a run team or a run game like ours. And on top of that, yeah, I mean, if anything, as I mentioned already, the only thing that kind of scares me, that would scare me, is our defense. So our pass rush has to just, fire on all cylinders. I'm really counting on Vita Vea, of course, to really just cause any sort of disruption, along with the other guys. I mean, our guys look real good against the Panthers. I feel like it was a couple of, I think there was 5 different guys who got each sack. So I'm just hoping we see the same thing again, just causing any sort of disruption.
Yeah, I mean, if the defense can get the type of pressure on Spencer Rattler that they did against Bryce Young,
Hmm.
I don't think this is a very close game. Like that
Yeah.
was a big part of why the Bucks were able to contain the Panthers' offense last week, because obviously Chuba Hubbard being out and the Panthers not really getting any type of run game going was huge. But the Saints don't really have a really great run game either, so it's going to be interesting to see how that plays out. They'll probably bring a lot of different looks at Spencer Rattler. If there's one thing you can say about Todd Bowles, he also loves to get creative, especially with blitz packages. So hopefully that plays up for the Bucks as well. And I'm also looking, the Saints wide receiver room. It's pretty light. It's pretty bad. So, maybe Zion or Jamel Dean, or if Antoine Winfield Jr. plays, maybe one of them can get an interception or something. That'd be a lot of fun. That was the one thing that I think the Bucks were missing last week. I don't think Bryce Young threw an interception. So if the Bucks could get one, that'd be a lot of fun. But Mr. Blaine, how about you, man? What's a favorable matchup that comes to your mind?
I mean, I don't know if I'd say favorable, but one to watch is Mike Evans against the defensive backs. He's very close to getting onto the record, into the record books, even more than he already is. But he's in there, and I think that's going to be a very, very big thing to watch.
Yeah, I mean it's everyone knows, the Saints know, Baker knows.
Baker's made it very well known.
Right, yeah, the Liam Cohen knows. I mean, good gracious, the entire league knows about this record and what Mike Evans has to do in order to reach it. So, yeah, I mean, they're going to shift a lot of focus on him, but there's only so much you can do with Mike Evans, and obviously the Bucks have playoff positioning to play for. They have a playoff spot,
Exactly.
so if you want to focus on Mike Evans just so he doesn't get that record, but you give up a bunch of yardage to Jalen McMillan and Sterling Shepard and Bucky Irving and Rashad White run and catch all over you, then I'm sure the Bucks and Baker Mayfield will be happy to take that. So that's certainly something that's going to be interesting to monitor. But before we end our episode, we got a couple of more segments. We got the over under, and we'll throw it to Mr. Tariq. It's your turn this week, my man. So give it to us, my man. What you got?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. All right. Try to make these as interesting as possible. try to diversify our over and unders. So the first one I got is more along the lines of how hot are our Buccaneers going to come out. So over under 1.5 touchdowns in the first half for our Buccaneers.
Well, the whole half.
Yeah, no, just the first half. Yeah.
Oh, over.
Yeah, I'm going to go over as well. I think that 2 touchdowns in the first half is realistic. But even if they don't get to that, even if it's like a 10 or 13 point lead or something like that, the sky's not falling. It's all good, But I'm gonna hit the over on that.
Yeah, I mean, we scored 17 points the first quarter last time we played New Orleans, and then another 7 in the second quarter. So I don't foresee them being any better than they were when we played them last time. So I'm going significantly over.
Yeah, I don't know if I'll say I'm not going to go quite that confident, but I am over. I am over as well.
Okay. Yeah, I'll probably have to go over. I wanted to play devil's advocate, but I really can't see them getting less than 2 touchdowns.
Yeah,
but I figured I'd throw it out there. And the next one is over under half or 0.5 interceptions. So are we going to get an interception this game or not, really, is what I'm asking.
So for the Bucs,
is Spencer Rattler going to throw an interception?
Gotcha.
Yeah.
Yes, I do believe that the Bucs get a pick.
Yeah. I think it's bound to happen. I feel like, with all this pressure we're hopefully going to put on Rattler,
right?
How do you not get it? But I wouldn't be surprised if we get really close to one and then
our
guys
this pass defense is really, really bad.
I'm
going under. I don't think we get a pick this game.
It holds you to that, Zach. If they get one, oh man.
Hey, I hope I'm wrong. I hope that I'm wrong, but I don't see it. I don't think this. I don't think they're going to be as pass heavy as we're expecting them to be.
Gotcha.
There's no ramifications for them. They win, they lose, it doesn't matter.
Right.
So
see, that could be an argument for them just letting it loose. Letting it rip. Like, hey,
that's a solid point. Just to play heartbreaker kind of a deal. Yeah, I don't see it happening, but I understand where it could and should happen. If I'm being honest.
Gotcha. All right, you got a third one for us, Mr. Tariq, or was that it?
Those are it. Yeah, just those two.
I'll throw one more.
Absolutely.
Do y'all think Mike Evans gets to 1,000 yards?
Yes, and yes. I don't know if that's even like I'm sure that is a play or something on these books.
Oh, I'm sure.
But
yeah,
I'm not active on the books, nor am I going to tell anyone to hammer it. But
I think we're going to push it really, really hard, and I think that's one that worries me. But I do think he gets it, even if it makes the game a little bit closer than it should.
Okay, fair enough. Gotcha. Yeah, I don't know. I think he gets it too. I'm not super confident about it either, though. Yeah, it's just tough because it's such a public thing. Man, if only it was a little more under the radar, maybe if it was like his first or second year of doing it, he might be able to sneak in there and get it. But yeah, it's kind of tough. But hopefully the duck makes an appearance, and hopefully the duck is safe. Because last week that duck, my goodness, I was afraid for its life. I was very fearful that. Although Zach, you're afraid of ducks, right?
Yeah, let's just put that out to the world.
In case they're trying to torture Zach Blaine.
I am definitely afraid of ducks. As weird as that sounds, they give me the creeps. I can't be around them. So I'm okay with them not.
That's why you're an Oregon State fan.
That's facts. That's why you're not an Oregon fan.
100%.
Yeah, that's all right. I'm weirdly afraid of bugs and stuff. So
yeah, exactly. So we're good.
Yeah, I feel you. So no worries at all. No worries at all. I'll put that out there as well. But before we close our episode, got some predictions. We always got to call the game. Who wins by what score? Mr. Blaine, I'll throw it back to you, my man. Who you got winning and by how much?
Let's just say 28-14 Tampa.
Okay, 28-14 Tampa. I like it. I've got 34-24 Tampa. I think the Bucs pull it out. I think they're going to give up a lot of points, but I think they're also going to score a lot of points because this Saints defense struggles to defend the run. And if you get the run game going with this Bucs team, they're pretty much impossible to stop.
Yeah, Baker loves play action, and that's the worst time to see him. So
yeah, it's just so many things open up. And Baker's great at that. Liam Cohen knows what buttons to push. So yeah, I've got the Bucs winning 34-24. Mr. Tariq, how about you, my man? Who you got winning and by how much?
Oh, I just changed it right now, but I think we're gonna dominate again, guys. I really do think I'm going 38-13. Buccaneers win. I just feel like there's no reason for Spencer Rattler and the Saints to do well against a team like us. I mean, they did horrible against the Raiders, so I don't know what makes I mean, I guess maybe we might sag off a little and let them get some more points on the board, but I really don't think so, and I hope I'm right. So
Yeah,
38-13. Yeah.
I hope that would be a lovely game to watch. Another Panthers-like performance would just be nice and easy breezy, beautiful cover girl. That would be fantastic. We just get to sit back and enjoy our Sunday, not even have to look at the Falcons Panthers score. Just who is Michael Penix? Who even is that guy? We don't have to worry about that. But y'all have reached the end of our episode. We really appreciate y'all tuning in. Thank you to my co-hosts, and give us a like or a subscribe if you liked what you heard. You can also give us a follow at RBLR Bucks or at RBLR Sports. Check us out there. We're always coming at you with new content, and we'll be back next week, regardless of win or loss, whether we're talking about draft picks or whether we're talking about the next playoff matchup. We'll be here for better or worse. So we hope to see y'all as well, and we hope y'all tune in. But until then, thank you again so much. And as always, go Bucks.
Go Bucks.
Thank you for tuning into this presentation by RBLR Sports. On your way out of the stadium, please remember to like and subscribe.